Gege, why do you get me so invested in these characters, these goats, just for you to strip their life away before my very eyes, leaving me to do nothing but just what? Hello chat, today we're going to be talking about the most recent death in the manga, so if you don't want to get spoiled then please leave. But for those who are still here, well then you already know why I'm upset. My god, why did they do Choso like that, bro? Nah, but I want to analyze not only Choso in this chapter and his death, but I guess make this video kind of an appreciation to the character because of how much I like him. No glazing, but he does get better with every arc, and I'm going to explain as to why that is the case. Before knowing who his true brother was, Choso was nothing more than a death painting womb who had brothers tasked with the mission of killing Itadori. As we know, this goes wrong with Itadori and Nobara locking in, killing Eso and Kechizu, leading into Choso plotting to avenge his brothers by killing Itadori. We would then get into the Shibuya incident where these two would then meet for the first time, with Choso showing off his bloodlust by off-rip shooting a piercing blood as soon as Yuji just lands down the stairs, and was dead set on killing this man. As these two battle and Itadori is about to get finished off, we then for some reason see a memory trigger within Choso's mind. Specifically, it would be memories that never existed. Choso would see Itadori being in his life and essentially being his lifelong brother, which puts him in a mental breakdown for obvious reasons. I mean, he just found out the guy who murdered his brothers is his brother. And for those who are a little confused as to why this happened, well, you know, Kenjaku basically moving from body to body allowed Choso to come to the conclusion that he and Yuji have some type of connection with one another. Which, like I said, would make Yuji and Choso technically brothers, but it would also technically make Kenjaku Choso's father. Yeah, this series is weird. Anyway, with Choso now understanding the situation, he would actually defend Yuji Itadori, devote the rest of his life to protecting his quote-unquote little brother, and to take out Kenjaku for lying to him all this time. Unfortunately, Choso gets naded on, leading into the execution arc, where Choso and Yuji, after the events of Shibuya, are then met with not only Yuta Okotu, who's primarily trying to kill Yuji, but for Choso specifically, he engages with Naoya Zenin. The brotherly duo initially tries engaging in a 2-on-1, but then Naoya and Choso would eventually get in a 1-on-1 confrontation. And it's really interesting to see a person who, unlike Choso, would never devote himself to his family, but rather do whatever it takes to take what's his. I mean, just meeting Naoya, we already know that he's there to kill Megumi after he just found out that he's going to be the head of the clan instead of himself. He assaulted Mai and got her killed, and tried getting Maki killed, and quite literally just did anything he wanted to get his way. Which is why it was perfect having him fight someone like Choso, as it's the most selfish person going up against the man who's dedicating his life to another person. I mean, to Choso, his entire life up to this point has been a lie, and he's still trying to adjust to the new circumstances, but what he does know is right is the fact that he's keeping his little brother safe. And seeing my humble king manage to poison and outsmart Naoya, who is just full of arrogance, to me it makes one of the most underappreciated fights in JJK, and honestly this fight needs to get a lot more recognition. And plus, this is technically Choso's last fight before he fights, you know, 2 hydrogen bombs as a coughing baby. Firstly, let's talk about his fight against Kenjaku with Yuki. Now, throughout this fight, we see that Choso has some conflict within him. Although the circumstances have changed for him, he still feels guilty since he's helping the guy who murdered his brothers. And after deciding to stay with Yuki to protect Tengen, he would confront Kenny with the intent to open his domain. Choso knew he was outclassed, but with Kenjaku not only regarding his brothers as trash curses and him basically being Choso's dad, he decides to prove to him specifically that they are not trash by using their powers in conjunction with his own. It's in this moment that Choso uses Esso's grace, Kechizu's freedom, and Itadori's power to push Kenjaku to actually having to kind of try. And Choso doing this not only is slowly him stepping away from regretting his new way of living, but is now using his brother's death to become stronger rather than letting it hold him back. We also see Choso accepting himself as a human after explaining to Yuki his situation, and Yuki would end up sacrificing herself so that Choso can live as a human rather than a curse, being essentially the older sibling to Choso and telling him to move forward. Which you guys are about to see in Shinjuku why this moment specifically is super crucial to Choso's character. And while we're at it, I mean, we can just talk about Choso during Shinjuku Showdown, which I'm just kidding. Obviously, him teaching Itadori blood manipulation, him taking those black flashes, and him besides Kusakabe being the one person who was helping Itadori train the 1 month is a massive contribution for the arc. However, when talking about Choso's own contributions to the Sukuna fight, yeah, man. Oh my god. Choso didn't stand a goddamn chance, but similar to Yuki's role in the fight with Kenny, only this time he's in his father's position, being the individual who gets hit point blank, Sukuna would fire fire off a fuga towards Itadori where we see Choso managing to Piccolo sacrifice himself for his brother, and before his final moments we do get one last flashback with him and his brother. In this flashback we find out that the little brothers eventually surpassed the older in Choso's mind, and we find out that the time he spent with Yuji was for centuries rather than just barely 2 months like in real time. He then thanks his brother for everything, with Choso leaving Yuji to be the one to free humanity from the King of Curses. Similarly to how Yuki not only freed Choso, but left him to be the one to carry out their plan. This death by far hits me the hardest, and when it gets animated, I'm sure I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. R.I.P. Choso, you goddamn goat. And before I end this video off, I just want to give my quick thoughts and opinions about JJK's direction, and a lot of you being like, oh, these deaths are horrible, I don't feel anything with the characters. For one, stop reading the leaks and actually read the chapters so you can actually feel the emotions. 2, stop pushing your own agendas. And 3, shut up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, especially after this week, I don't want to hear any more complaints about JJK. Gege is in his bag, and we got to let him cook. Please, man, let this man cook.